Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Parker.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
And Merry Christmas season to you guys. Happy holidays to all of you. This is going to be the first of our double review. We have already reviewed the 2019 version of this, but this is going to be our review of the 1974 original Black Christmas. Now, this is a lot of times regarded as one of the earliest, if not the earliest, slasher in the slasher subgenre of horror.
It was like this in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, pretty much. I mean, they started it all off. So,
Indeed. So we'll do this review like normal. We'll talk about our overall thoughts. We'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, all of that good stuff in turn. Again, bearing in mind that this is a movie from 1974, which, by the way, had any of us ever seen this before?
I'd never watched it before.
So we're going to get crucified for that alone. So yes, guys, we acknowledge we're not real horror fans if we hadn't seen this before now.
Sorry,
but
guys.
F you, we saw it now. So now it's time to give our thoughts. And my overall thoughts are, I was actually very impressed with the film as far as what it was able to accomplish from way back then without any template to go off of. Even Halloween kind of went off of this template just a little bit at parts.
A little bit.
Now, I think that there was actually more scary in this than a lot of the movies back then. Outside of just the typical slasher scares, I think the phone calls were extraordinarily unnerving and
those
possibly
were the worst, dude.
The
like
best,
some of the stuff that was
said.
The
creepiest thing in might be the creepiest phone calls ever in horror.
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And you see where Scream derived some of their inspiration.
Yeah, well, a lot of people derived their inspiration from this as far as
the
calls
go.
Are
coming from in the house.
Yeah. So anyway, I overall really liked this movie. I was surprised at how much I did. Marcia?
Meh. I mean, I don't know. And maybe if I watched this movie 20 years ago, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But it just, because it was the first, and I see so much of so many other movies in it, that when I was watching it, I was just like, oh, this is just, your typical, the prank phone calls, the girls are just getting murdered and nobody knows why, and it just seems really obvious, like nobody hears all this going on in the house, and just like over the top acting and everything. It was okay for what it was, but I mean, I'm sorry, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre was way more scarier than this. And then the phone calls, I was like, really? This is just heavy breathing, whatever. I mean, the last house on the left was a little bit more, intense when it came to those obscure calls and the creepiness value of it, because it felt more real, and this just felt like, I don't know. I didn't feel it.
Interesting. That's the toughest thing about when we've seen this premise mimicked by so many other films at this point that we've already watched, and then we come back to this. And I mean, it was interesting to see where so much of the formative groundwork took place. I thought, just like Cecil, the use of the C word by this dude who was calling, I mean, it was, I felt even in this day and age, it was really crossing the line.
I guess it didn't faze me.
Pretty over the top. And I was especially thinking,
me.
I was just like, man, 1974, holy crap, they're actually doing this and stuff. And Lois Lane as the drunk, I thought was great. She's really funny in this. She's in the Kristopher Reeve Superman films. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's not gory or super visceral or anything like that, but the one thing that they said they tried to emulate with the new Black Christmas film that this film definitely had in spades was women's issues. And I'm not a man, so I mean to comment on that in this day and age, so on and so forth, but it definitely did. There's a whole abortion subplot, with the musician and with the one girl who kind of becomes our final girl to a degree, and and you kind of, it is an interesting guessing game to the end who this killer potentially is, and whether you find out who they are or not is one of the best things about the film, actually, I thought.
Well, why don't you go ahead and just jump into the story then, Fuego, since you're basically on top of it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you have a sorority, obviously, but it's a very nuanced sorority as far as the fact that you feel care and compassion from the performances of all of these girls. And a lot of people have criticized Black Xmas as being the more, which is the 2006 or 2006, yeah. So that was the requel continuation.
It was a reboot, Fuego. Stop trying to crowbar in sequel.
I'm trying.
It's not. The timeline doesn't match.
I know, okay. But nonetheless, like, that was the later version of the film, and what this new Black Christmas director actually criticized about this film was the fact that she didn't like that the remake had just like stereotypical girls that weren't very well fleshed out. They were just like one note, boring, whatever. And this film definitely does not have that. All of the girls are very distinctive, different, interesting as far as their personalities, their problems, and stuff like that. It's not gory though, so you can't really say much about that. But so it's Christmas, obviously.
There's some heavy kills though.
Well, the bag kill is definitely not gory, but it's iconic in my estimation. And then Lois Lane, I keep forgetting the name.
Margot Kidder.
Margot Kidder, yeah, that's right. She doesn't come to the best demise or anything. But story-wise, it's essentially about a bunch of mysterious calls that start to come to this sorority up in Canada. And nasty, like, sexual stuff being said by this particular person. One girl goes missing. Her father shows up, and he's like, yes, I was supposed to meet my daughter here, and, I can't seem to find her, and so on. And so, he jumps in with some of the other sorority girls and one particular guy who they're all trying to kind of figure things out, and they're just trying to figure out who this killer is, where they may be potentially, like, using as, like, their hideaway spot. And really just, I mean, it does boil down in a lot of ways to an interpersonal disagreement between this, guy who is a pianist and wants to have a child with this girl, and this, this British chick who is not interested in that. She is career-driven. She doesn't care. They have a point of disagreement, and it does make up, like, the B-side of the story aside from the killer angle. And, yeah, it's very Canadian. You see some, talkie players and all kinds of other stuff as they're, like, searching around the college and whatnot. But, yeah, it's really, like, pretty simple and yet effective in its execution, I think.
So you liked the story, then?
I did like the story. Yeah, I did. I mean, it's definitely, as Marcia mentioned, not stuff that we've, never seen, like, afterwards. This movie has been emulated a lot. It's been redone with, gorier, crazier concepts and stuff like that. But as a whole, I didn't love it, but I'm respectful of the groundwork that this particular story put into place. So,
yeah. Marcia, your thoughts on the story?
Well, it's so funny you're talking about the whole abortion thing. I thought that whole side of the story was unnecessary and just forced. And I really wish they would have just left that out, because who gives a F about it anyway?
It was them trying to make, like, a more nuanced horror movie.
Because we have to have some morals in here. This girl's, like, sleeping around, and she got pregnant, and now everyone's gonna get murdered because of it, whatever. And I'm like, this is stupid. Just murder everybody. And it was so funny. You're like, maybe, I don't know. I thought all the girls looked the same, and I couldn't tell the difference. I'm like, they'd be running around. I'm like, I thought she died already. I could not tell the difference between the girls. And maybe that's just me, and maybe I'm just biased because I don't care about girls, and I thought they were all kind of one-liner. The only girl that I thought was funny was the drunk girl. And the old lady.
She was drunk the whole movie.
Yeah, the house mom was
like, at the
amazing.
Cop station drinking.
Yeah, house mom was fun too.
Yeah. The cops. I mean, there's some beats into it that I liked, and it's just and I do respect the fact that this did lay down some groundwork, and a lot of movies going forward did take a lot from this movie, which allowed us to have the things that we have, and I do appreciate that. And I think maybe if I watched this earlier than I did now, then maybe I would have had a little bit more enjoyment of it. But it just fell flat for me. And usually I like the movies coming from the 70s era because they are usually right on my alley, but I just felt bored.
Yeah. It's fair. It's fair. I kind of felt the same thing at times. Like, it's funny. I thought it was going to be, from everything that I've heard about this movie, I thought it was going to be crystal clear that this was going to be the best of all three. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. So,
I don't either, actually.
So yeah, this one, the story was super basic, but it's it's what works for horror movies, and it was one of the earliest versions of it. So like Marcia, like, it's funny that we have to sort of lay a red carpet out for our opinions out on this one, where we're like, look, we get that it definitely was this and it was early and it did this, but we've just seen so much at this point that it's not wholly unique anymore. And it did its thing back in the day, but you gotta understand, coming from watching this for the first time in 2019, it's not going to land the same way.
It doesn't hold up. And when and I don't mean to cut you off, but when I rewatch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it still frightened me. I still had a reaction. I had no reaction to this movie. So I can see where a lot of people get a lot of appreciation for this movie, and a lot of things come from it. But just a sorority of girls together getting picked off by somebody living in the attic is not scary to me.
Okay.
So performance?
Yeah, performance-wise, no one really stuck out. Margot Kidder did, obviously.
She definitely did. And she hams up the scenes that she's in, as she is just constantly drinking the entirety of the time.
And I agree with Marcia on the house mom. I think she stole
was
the
good
scenes too.
Yeah.
Like, she was really genuine.
I thought
but really cool. She stuck up for them, and stuff like that.
I like the scene with the room, and she's hiding the sex
where
poster.
the person was searching.
So, it was
the father actually,
the
father of the girl who got killed, and
Yeah.
he was just looking, and she's just like, I'm not, condoning any of this. I thought actually the boyfriend's performance of the girl who was pregnant was very solid. Actually,
right, yeah.
just him being upset and the disagreement aspect of what to do when the one partner wants to keep a child and the other person does not. I felt like he sold it pretty well, and that he was decent. There's not really a lot of other male characters. We do get, what's his name? A Nightmare on Elm Street. Saxon?
John Saxon.
He's in this movie.
Yeah, he's a cop.
Yes, he is. He's good. He's good in pretty much everything.
Hard to
I've
not
seen
look
him
at
in.
him and think,
And
Nancy's dad's on the job.
Yeah, exactly. But that's totally what I thought. Being 74, and then almost 10 years later when he's her dad.
Literally 10 years later.
Yeah,
84.
Yeah, 84 exactly. So he's good in it. So it's nice to see a familiar face, and between Tim and Kidder, there were talented actors that went on to noteworthy projects that went in later on, and I didn't think the acting was necessarily bad. I feel Marcia more so in the fact that so many of the tropes that were adjusted to at this point were what they came back to, but all the actors did good stuff.
For the 70s, it was solid.
I thought
honestly, because there's a lot of 70s movies where it's
hammy
really questionable and hammy.
Just kind of
this was not that way.
Acting and
no,
stuff.
everything. I didn't get brought out of it from the acting in this at all.
I agree. When you look at the 70s movies, especially in horror, they're really, a lot of them are borderline is this a porno actor? And that's because a lot of porno actors would be willing to do some of these movies and doing those crazy things.
I'm sure there was some crossover.
Yeah, and Last House of the Left, they were because of the content. Most actresses wouldn't do it.
It's the worst. I can't watch those movies. I can't.
I can't do them either.
Extended rape scenes.
They're
I watched the first
I
Spit on Your Grave. Did you watch the I Spit on Your Grave remake and stuff? Because there's 4 of those now.
There's the sequel too that they just
and Deja Vu or whatever. Yeah. I can't take extended rape scenes, and it seems like throughout the years they just got longer and longer and longer.
I just can't do the rape revenge subgenre of horror.
It's tough.
It's too much for me as a man because I just
okay. All right, calm down.
No,
it's just such a funny way to put it. I can't take rape revenge movies because it's too much for me as a man.
It makes me genuinely sad that there are horrible pieces of crap out there.
I agree with you. It makes me genuinely sad that there are actual representations of our gender that way.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I do get the sentiment. You got to admit, though, the way it sounds.
As a man, I
can't take it as a man.
Really?
Yeah. What about the women in those rape revenge movies feel?
Wow, where did we go in this? There's no rape, thankfully, in Black Christmas.
Oh, this is definitely a demonetized video. You can't even use that word on YouTube anymore. It's crazy.
Well, let's
No, it's okay. It's all right. Look, we got to be able to talk honestly about the movie. So, so back to this movie, Black Christmas. Let's get into the effects. Okay. I thought there was actually a couple of gore effects in here. But not a terrible amount, but in the back half,
It's very slow and
there was beheading, and there was the bag kills, yes. But
the bag kill is on promotional material. It's that iconic, and so
it didn't need all of the craziness that some of those movies had back then. Though I thought it was effective for what it made use of for the 70s.
I think it was, especially for that era, I think that it was right where it needed to be because people weren't yet prepared for the amount of gore that we are prepared for now. It was
a good easing in.
Yeah. It's like, just a tip. Just a little tip.
Yeah. They threw on the Astroglide.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, even Texas Chainsaw was not particularly gory. They cut away from
100% not gory at all. So, very little blood in that movie.
It's just more like insinuation of what's transpiring.
Yeah. So. Well, the hook part is the most aggressive.
That still makes me. In both of them, actually.
Yeah.
So, music... Sound-wise, I will say that the sound design of Billy and his movements throughout the house and stuff like that, it was a little bit of Housebound. You got to admit, Housebound took a little bit from Black Christmas too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
living in the walls.
Yeah, anyone living in the house while attacking
and also,
the victims.
Goddamn the boy.
Yeah.
We're getting a sequel to that. I'm surprised that's not
whatever
on the
reason.
list. Yeah, the Brahms the boy too.
Yes.
That's right. You're
with
like,
Katie
Holmes. Why isn't that on your
with
list?
Katie Holmes.
Katie Holmes, yeah. That doesn't pique your interest.
So many things about that makes me so happy.
I love Katie Holmes.
All right, so effects-wise, though, did it work for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was right where it needed to be. Nothing pulled me out of the movie. I think it was very consistent.
Yeah, I thought just choice of shot location and everything, and the main home where they did the predominance of it, all the attic scenes were claustrophobic, and then they just made you feel kind of creeped out and stuff. But I mean, since there's not extensive gore or practical in this film, it's just really down to script and shot direction and stuff like that. And I felt like it was very well filmed. What's funny is the same guy who directed this also directed A Christmas Story. You'll shoot your eye out.
Interesting.
Is that not crazy or what?
Yeah,
he'll
shoot your eye out.
Sound design though for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was good, right?
Well, I know all those phone calls were creeptastic, man. I still think that's the creepiest bits in the entire. Aside from the
I think the phone calls were definitely the most creepy parts.
All of the deep breathing we got in some of those scenes where we got the first person perspective.
Well, because it felt a little Norman Bates-ish, right? Because he was doing two different genders with his voice, right?
Yeah, he was.
He was doing the
switching back and forth.
doing the. It wasn't. I mean, I'm getting it confused a little bit with the 2006 where it was actually two voices and stuff like that at times.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't want to cross into that territory. But yeah, he was throwing his voice, and it was creepy as hell. I thought those were literally the most unnerving scenes to me. Were those phone calls?
Yeah, it epitomized the mania for me.
I mean, they were okay. I think it was a little distracting to me. I don't know. It was with mixed with the noise and what he was saying, and I was just like, eh. And then the lightheartedness that the girls were taking at first, I was laughing more at what she was saying than worried about it. Yeah, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much going to cover it, guys. Those are our thoughts on Black Christmas 1974. Look, forgive us if this is your favorite. Obviously, and one thing I want to do is make sure and shout out to Dave McCrae, who is not only going to be a part of our Nightmare on Elm Street fan film playing Freddy Krueger himself, but Dave is going to be doing a fan film for Black Christmas, set 40 years later, called It's Me, Billy. They're writing and directing it. So they're bringing Billy back because, it was a separate Billy in the 2006 remake. Right. So this is a continuation of this movie that he's working on.
Of this movie?
Of 1974.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a continuation of the 1974.
Not 2019.
So they got their timelines right.
It's going to be 45 years later or whatever it is at this point. So
which it is. Damn, 74. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be Billy though. So I'm excited to. So shout out to them.
How old would that make Billy though?
I don't know, like 60 something. That
75.
didn't stop. Look, Henry Bowers was old in It Chapter 2. But nonetheless, guys, make sure you go over to Dave McCrae, Many Things Dave McCrae on Facebook to follow that project. But this movie was good for its time, and I don't blame you for having it close to your heart if you watched it early on in your life. I could definitely see it being one of mine had I done so. Same with the original My Bloody Valentine, which I never watched until this year.
Canadian slasher.
But that one, if I had seen that when I was a kid, it would absolutely be one of my favorite slashers. That might be a similar case with this one, maybe not as much, but I can see someone making an argument for that. So I don't fault any of you guys that love it. And I don't fault you for hating us for not liking it as much as you. But bear in mind, we're watching it for the first time in 2019. and we're not kids, so
Yeah.
And we're not pizza, you know. Can't make everybody happy.
yeah, we're not pizza.
Yeah. I still thought it was
It's my favorite
quite
line.
memorable.
I'm glad you followed it up with that sentence
Yeah.
because I had no idea what you were saying when you said we're not pizza.
Can't make everybody happy.
Yeah, I thought it was quite memorable, but just not of the lastingness that we would have loved, unfortunately. So, yeah.
So yeah, that's what's going to do it for this review. I wasn't sure what way we were going to present the reviews, but I think I'm going to reverse them. I think this one's going to go up on 23rd. And then tomorrow we'll put up our review of Black Xmas. Mm-hmm. And then on Christmas, we're going to put up our White Elephant gift exchange.
Okay.
So come and play with us on Christmas Day. You
boy.
get to see us open some gifts. Tune back in tomorrow to see what we think of the Black Xmas 2006 remake.
Pew, pew.
But that's going to do it for our review of Black Xmas, or Black Christmas 2000 oh God.
You could do it!
Black Christmas
can do it.
1974. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss those other things coming in the very near future. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Archbreaker!
Gracias, up and having Fuego.
Thank you very much to our patrons, but remember, guys, stay scared!